Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Love Tribe. Thank you so much for joining in. If you clicked on this video, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and join the Love Tribe. Trust me, you won't regret it. I have a lot of more content coming up for you as the months go by. Have some interviews scheduled with some pretty interesting people to share their story of near-death experiences, all the way to, spiritual experiences and also experiences of being in the government. And, not everything is what it seems. So as time goes on, keep checking up for my content because you'll be surprised who's coming up. But today I want to talk about a topic that has been it's been ruminating within me. I just never understood how or where or what to do to like highlight it, to bring it forward. And I have a lot of people that I've met over the course, specifically the last 7 years since I had my awakening in 2016 from a near-death experience. And I often say I didn't find life coaching found me. And so all of these people that have crossed paths with me have the most traumatic stories, like traumatic events. And in order to be the resilient human being they are today, the trauma is what made them that person, And some of them are women, and they are in the echelon of women who are single, and they are mothers. I kind of frown upon this idea that traditional male mentality has, that a relationship or dating or development of a connection with a single mother is a bad investment because you have to deal with someone else's kids. And I was listening to a YouTuber, I think her name is Pearl. I really like her content. I think that she's super brave to like expose her mindset out there. I really admire that. But the mentality of a single that a single mother is a bad investment for a relationship. Like, why would a man want to even consider that, regardless of whatever age group you're in, is so ridiculous. And it's ridiculous for a couple of reasons. I'm going to tell you right now. I am a single mother. I have a lot of friends that are single mothers. I also have a lot of women that are not my friends that I've come in contact with that are single mothers. And I've also life coached women that are single mothers. And I've also met women who find themselves currently becoming single mothers. And this is the reason why the women I have come in contact with, probably because you attract who you are in life, and you develop connections with people that are most like you. The reason why these women are single mothers has nothing to do with them being a bad investment or that their choice of partner was bad, because you can't blame a woman, for instance, that has a partner that once the child is in the picture or two kids are in the picture, they pack up and leave. You can't really put somebody else's actions to blame on another person. Then you are excusing the one that does wrong from the wrongdoing. And I feel like in culture, we have developed a setup that's like that. You point the finger at the woman for being a single mom. You point the finger at the woman for getting pregnant out of wedlock or out of marriage. But no one, or not a lot, is pointed at the man that just packs up and leaves, or the man that is unfaithful in the marriage once a baby's in the picture. And the woman doesn't want to be a miserable person in a marriage, raising a child in a miserable energy environment. They rather raise them alone, which is the choice I made. I was married to a person that was like my first love. Our baby came into the picture. I made a career move of not taking a scholarship for medical school and basically going into education. I was writing curriculum, and then I got a job as a teacher. So I was doing both of those. And I took that career move because I wanted to be a present wife and I wanted to be a present mother. I knew children were going to be part of the picture once I got married. And my partner still failed on me. You know, marriage is something that people go into not understanding the concept of having staying power, not understanding the concept even of a covenant. That's the other thing, because marriage is not a trap. Marriage is a very beautiful thing because it turns all of the things that in society are seemed or deemed as, you know, shameful. It turns all of those things into very beautiful experiences to have with your partner. However, when you go into a marriage with an individual in the world that we live in right now, where there's just so much availability of everything and people have different moral standings, if you find yourself with a partner who is not sticking to the covenant the way you are, I'm sorry. Sometimes you can't stay in it. I'm not an advocate for divorce, but I'm also not an advocate for staying miserable. And I think that we got to take this entire level of shame off of the idea that a person got divorced, whether you're male or female. Also, when it comes to like paperwork or any kind of documentation or things that you apply for, right? I find this often funny. When I'm asked the question, are you divorced? Are you single? Are you married? Or whatever. They have those items there. I always put single. I don't put divorced. I don't identify myself as a divorced person. You know, a divorce happened for some people 10 years ago. It was a decade ago. A divorce for some people happened 20 years ago. For others, it happened last year. I get it. But why is that put down as an identity of where you presently stand? It doesn't matter. Once you're not in a marriage, you're single. You know, don't allow the concept of divorce to make you walk around in shame as if you can't ever move on with your life. I am here to tell you that for all of the people that I have coached that are divorced and became single parents, specifically single mothers, none of them are miserable. None of them are emotionally overwhelmed. They might be financially overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed when it comes to, you know, crunching for time, for having time for themselves. But emotionally, they don't have a partner that is bringing toxicity into their mind. They no longer have an individual that is putting on some narcissistic ideology in the household. They're able to be a happy, joyful individual for their kid, thereby raising a child that is happy, confident, self-loving, reliable, motivated, inspired, admires their parent, whether it's a mom or dad, and they understand the value of what comes into the home because it comes from one parent, you know? So for a person, whether you're a woman or a man, looking to develop a relationship with someone, having the factor of it can't be a woman who's a single parent, or it can't be a guy who's a single parent. There's 19 million children right now that are in single parent households. Let me see, I looked at the statistic. I want to make sure I don't give you the wrong number. 19 million children below the age of 18 that live with a single parent. And I want to say this is, let me check here, if it's specifically America, or I want to say it's the data from the United States since the 1960s. There's 19 million children, and the United States constitutes 23% of that. Okay, 23% of those 19 million children are from the United States, and these are from countries that submitted to that census that basically does this research on parenting, married and divorced individuals, and who's a single parent, and who has custody and who doesn't. So United States, United Kingdom, São Tomé and Príncipe, which is a Portuguese colony, Russia and Denmark were the countries that were listed as having the highest percentage of single parent households. Now, I have often felt that United States is not a country that is family oriented. I don't care what political power is in charge. It is not a family oriented country. Here's why. It's based too much on corporations, on capitalism, on work schedules, and the job being, the Lord and God of your life. And the reality is, all of those things bring you great material abundance, but they leave you alone. They leave you lonely. They also disconnect you from your family, from your loved ones. They take you away from people that want to spend time with you. Like, we are in charge of our work-life balance. Work is not going to tell you to have a work-life balance. They don't want you to have a work-life balance. They want you to just work. And that's it. Every single job. This specific country, United States, I love it for the opportunities, but I don't think it's family oriented. With that said, though, it's still up to you to make the alterations so that in your life you live a family oriented life, if that's important to you. And it should be. Because in the end of the day, your family is really the valuable thing you have. And if you're a parent, you are another human being's entire world. Like, you don't have time to sit back and put yourself first place and just do things for you and only consider your feelings and your thoughts and what you want and what you don't want and leave the kid with whoever else in the family. Like, that is not good for your kid. To every single child that I've ever mentored, because that's another thing I do in coaching, I don't just stick to coaching adults. I've also mentored teens. And what I have been told by a lot of teenagers is that to them, one of the parents, either mom or dad, and sometimes both, it's their entire world. Like, you're their universe. And it is so valuable, the quality time that you take or with them, or the little nuggets of time that you take here and there to make them a priority in that moment every day, let's say, is so valuable to them. It is so imperative to them. It's everything to them. And it's at the core of their state of happiness, which you want to be the state of mind they live in. So why? Because you want them to be a self-loving individual. You want them to be a confident individual. You want them to be loving towards others. You want them to be reliable with themselves. You want them to be self-motivated. And happiness is at the core of that. And a child learns how to see life and how to make a choice to be happy regularly based on how the parenting is happening at home. It stems from the adults. We cannot point a finger at kids and say that they are little monsters just because that's how they are. It comes from something. It comes from somewhere. The apple never falls far from the tree. Now, with this said, why are people thinking, or why do most men think when it comes to dating a person with kids, specifically women that are single mothers, why are they a bad investment? I think men think it's a bad investment because they worry about having to share their resources with a kid that's not theirs. I get that. But what they're not seeing, and sometimes what they miss, is an amazing partner for life. Because when you enter a person's life, if they're a single mother and they have their life established, they have their own property, they have their own investments, okay, property, investments, car or cars. They have their own career. They have their own passions on the side that bring additional streams of income. They have activities or functions or things that they do that basically they help other individuals also. They go beyond themselves. And on top of that, check how their kid is. They have an amazing kid, like a kid that is like great, doing great in school, a kid that is, personality-wise, amazing personality, super, advanced in their thinking, where you can have a conversation with them and actually get along with them. How is that single mother a bad investment? If anything, you know that if you are to have children with her, let's say, she is going to be a great parent with you because alone, look what she has managed to achieve. Like, that's almost like a woman not wanting to date a man who has a starting business. Like when men talk about not wanting to date a single mom, it's the same thing as a woman saying, I don't want to date a man that is starting a small business or that is a small business owner. Why do I say small business? Because a small business is like a baby. It requires a lot of attention, 24/7 work, dedication, unexpected absences by said man because he has to be at a location where this business is and he can't be present for an event that's related to you, or you can't be present for the quality time that you guys had scheduled, or something always pops up where it kind of cuts into your time, into your relationship. Say no difference than having a kid. It's just people mentally put categories or categorize everything, and then they just completely X out a whole group of people. So by saying you don't want to date a single mother, or single mother specifically, because I looked up the data for that, you're basically saying that 9 million women, because of the, I also looked that up, the number of women in the United States alone that are listed as being single mothers, because there's a lot that are not listed because they don't have either documentation or they didn't take the census. There's about 9 million women in America that you are basically putting to the side and saying you can't date them because they're horrible people, they're bad investments. And so then what's left in the market? Most women that are just imitating and copying each other, that look like exact Xerox copies of one another, with, BBLs, either real long hair or fake extensions to look like long hair that is, of one particular color. They all look the same. Lashes that look like they're going to slap you in the face, plumped up lips, and they all look the same. And on top of that, the only thing they're looking for is a high value man, but the high value man that they are looking for, because high value to them is all connected to money and what you can provide for them and what you could buy for them, what you could pay for them, what you could do for them, has nothing to do with the character of the man. That's what's left out there pretty much to date. There's also, of a percentage that are really decent, amazing women. Yes, they're average, but those are the women that in a lot of relationship podcasts and coaching podcasts that I have been watching, and even relationship coaching that I've been going through just to better my skills as a coach, they're considered average. And a lot of men are visual, and they don't necessarily go for a woman that looks average. They want the glamorous, the beautiful, the put together, what they consider high maintenance is really the woman they want to go for, visually, but it's not the woman they want to have every day. Why is that? I don't know. Maybe every day they want to have someone that looks like they're not put together. I don't understand. Maybe that's a personal choice. But for me, it's I would never look at an individual that's put together and that's glamorous and amazing, because men can do that too, and be like, oh no, he's too high maintenance, I'm just not going to want to pursue this. What is happening is that the dating culture has gotten so messed up, and people have categorized things so much, they don't allow for time to develop any form of connection with any individual that's different from what they feel it's what they want. And a lot of times what you think you want is not even what's healthy for you. It's not even the partnership that's good for you. So let's go back to talking about single mothers or single parents, because there's also some dads that are single parents, that are single dads, that are 100% full single dads. They don't share custody, right? They have their kids every day. They also struggle to meet someone because there are women that will say, I don't want to date a man who has kids. Now, you got to take in consideration, what season of life are you in? Are you in a season where, you've already raised kids and they're older and they're in college, and obviously you don't want to be maybe raising kids again? But if you're young and you're out there, there's 9 million single mothers. There's about 5 million single dads that are full custodial dads, parents, and they stem from the ages of mid-20s to 40s. Okay? So you're basically Xing out 5 million men because you're that's a bad investment as a woman. I don't want to parent somebody else's kids. Again, the same thing goes for men. You have to see the situation. You have to allow yourself to see the situation. Check the person out. Get to know them. Knowing their character is what matters, not what their setup is. Their character is what matters. You're going to have a relationship with their character. You're not going to have a relationship with their setup. Their setup being, are they single? Were they married before? Now they're divorced. Do they have kids? Nowadays, if you want to meet someone that is traditional, and let's say that you are a person in your late 30s, and you're thinking you're going to meet someone that has never had a history with anyone else in their 20s, you're delusional. You're delusional. We live in the era of technology where we're able to access people differently, better. And that access allows us to get relationships at a much easier rate. But the relationships that are happening are like instantaneous relationships where it's like people meet, they go on one date, they're immediately, in the thralls of intimacy, and that's it. They're in a relationship. That's not a relationship. That's why some people need coaching. That's why, just like there's levels to success, there's levels to a career, there's levels to growing a business, there's levels to having a relationship with a person. There, you can't skip levels. What you could do is maybe have better communication and be honest in that communication. Like, say what it is that you're looking for, and sometimes a person that you're considering is not going to be a great investment for you. Well, why are you considering that not a great investment? How are you analyzing that person? Do you want other people or that person to analyze you that way? So I wanna discuss, why being a single mom, actually makes you probably, in my opinion, the best contender for a relationship with a man, especially a high value man. High value man wants to have a relationship with someone, or he wants to get married because he's at that stage where he's, I don't know, grown in his life and he hasn't developed a connection with anyone that has sustained the test of time to be in a marriage. But now he's in his like mid 40s, right? Or late 30s, about to be 40. And that's the time that men are usually financially feeling like they can get married nowadays. Okay. So now he's a high value man. He can be a provider and he wants a partner. What do these men usually do? They tend to look for women that are of a specific look, style, weight, and age group. And usually it's women in their 20s that bring in a lot of drama, a lot of not understanding how the world works, a lot of they don't even know themselves, a lot of also insecurity, jealousy, and also not understanding the value of, how to hold on to what you've earned. To them, it's like it's there and they'll overspend it. I've seen this happening, I've seen this happening before my eyes. So I'm not talking about something that is just like an imagination for me. It's something I've actually seen. I have seen where the man is like a fully, like he's finally fulfilled in his life. He has his business. He does events. He runs a fundraiser at the same time. He's financially well established. And in that setting, he was dating someone in their 20s. And he was consistently complaining about how they clashed in every different arena that was related to a relationship. And it was all related to what I just mentioned, insecurity, jealousy, a misunderstanding of how time management works when it comes to being a self-made man, a man who has his own business, a misunderstanding of how to manage their funds, a misuse of their funds, expectation of being taken care of at a level that is not even a level they can provide for themselves, but the man has to do that. So with that said, I basically asked this guy, because I was coaching him. He's in his he was in his early 40s at the time. I said, did you ever consider dating someone in your age group? And he's like, oh no, like all there is in my age group is like, mostly it's like single women that have kids, the single moms. And I'm like, well, I'm a single mom and you contracted me to coach you, right? He's like, yeah, but that's different. You're like, it's like therapy. I'm like, okay. But I gave him a list of like extreme positives to being with a woman who is a single mom. So after a couple of like weeks, it was like almost 2 months, he decided to give it a shot. And he actually started taking the opportunity and taking a chance on going after women, regardless of what their, home life situation was. If they were single or, single like divorced, regardless if they had kids, he would give it a chance. And he did. He's in a great relationship today with a woman who had already 2 kids. They had a baby themselves, and they're happy. It's been now what 3, 4, going on 4 years, and he was like enthralled with the fact that he came to me. He said it's the best relationship I've ever had. She's self-established. She knows the value of what you earn. You don't just overspend and splurge tremendously just because you have it. She values me as a person, values my character. She actually saw me for me, not necessarily for, all of the abundance I put on the table. And it's her kids are amazing. I wanted to be their dad. I wanted to share my abundance. Because here's the thing, when a man gets to that level in life where he has been blessed with being able to make enough to be a provider, he's also supposed to be willing to be generous with that. Because if you're going to try to hang on to it and you're going to try to be petty with it, like it can only be for this or for that, you're going to be conditional with it, you're going to have a very hard time loving another individual. Because love should be unconditional. Love should be it should basically be something that you give without the condition of what you give back. And I think that that's why so many people categorize things. It's almost like to take the guilt off of the fact that they don't want to love someone unconditionally. They want to love somebody on their terms. They want a relationship on their terms, you know? Now, and you can say, well, why are these individuals single parents, If they are such great investments, why are they single parents? They're single parents because in a lot of situations, I will put my hand on the fire, you're dealing with people who saw a marriage that was basically going nowhere with an individual that was just going to overspend whatever comes into the house. And they wanted to pick up and go and have a better life for themselves and their kid. And that's sometimes what you have to do. You can't sit there and fiddle your thumbs and stay together because you have kids. Children should not be a life sentence. That's another thing. I'm not an advocate for divorce, but I also don't think kids are a life sentence to stay stuck with someone because you have kids together. That is the worst thing you could do to yourself, because you're going to pass that on to your kid. Your kid's going to live with the feeling that you stayed because of them. And that's so much guilt that you pass on to your kid. Your kid has that weight of guilt that they want to get up and go before they're 18 out of your house. They don't want to stay in that situation, So sometimes you have to divorce. It's what you should have been doing, Also, people fear the breakup or the letting go or the idea of becoming a single parent because they fear they won't be able to handle the level of solitude and loneliness that brings. And I get that. I understand that. It does bring a lot of solitude and a lot of loneliness. You don't have another person there. It's like you're running an entire ship by yourself. It's not easy. And that's one of the reasons why I don't understand why culturally a single parent is seen in a negative light when it comes to a possible relationship or connection investment. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me, I also think, based on experience and what I have as knowledge and wisdom, every situation is individual in itself. When you hear a lot of this relationship advice, you cannot apply it like butter on bread. You can only apply it knowing the situation and knowing that the characters or the two people involved. That's the only time you could do it. Without that, you can't really be applying any of these concepts because they're too general. I'm coming from a perspective of someone who's a single parent and who's dealt with a lot of single moms who have, in confidence, basically told me they feel like outcasted, and they feel like when it comes to society, what they thought was a better choice for them based on how their marriage was breaking in order to raise a kid that is in a better home life, thinking that they were salvaging their kid from that destructive pattern and toxicity of, husband and wife constant fighting in the house. Now society looks at them and says, well, now you can't date you because you are a horrible investment and you have kids and I don't want to deal with that. And that's so sad. And I believe also that one of the biggest reasons why divorce rates are so high nowadays, and people can blame it on social media, people can blame it on a lot of things, and maybe those are factors, related to it, yes. But I feel like the biggest reason for divorce today is the fact that there's so many single mothers already. Kids that are raised in a single mother household, whether they're male or female, grow up with an innate subconscious fear and overthink about themselves in a long-term relationship. And that overthinking and that fear that is subconscious keeps them from wanting to actually commit to the covenant of a marriage with someone. Hence, you end up with a person who may go through the rigmarole of relationship, couple years, engagement, marriage, have kids. Oh, you don't make me happy anymore. Let's get divorced. They divorce very easily. Why? Because they have seen their single parent being outcasted, being looked upon and considered someone that is a bad investment. Being in situations where the single parent hasn't been able to enjoy their life, and they have physically witnessed that as they've been growing up in that house, how the single parent had to work so much more than just a regular job in order to provide. And when they see that, they themselves have this feeling of, I don't want to get married. I don't want to get married. I don't want to stay married. I don't want to get married, So even though they may love a person and they may even marry that person, they don't even want to stay. Like, immediately when certain things start to hit the fan, like we say, shit hits the fan, they immediately resort to divorce, and they haven't even had kids, and that's why divorce rates have increased and have steadily stayed increased in that, not steadily increased, but they've stayed on that path of remaining at that level, because subconscious thought patterns do affect your conscious activity. See, this is why life coaching, this is why therapy is super beneficial. This is why emotional intelligence development is important. Subconscious thought patterns affect your conscious state of being. That subconscious fear and that subconscious overthinking of yourself in long-term relationships that makes you hyperventilate can result in you not giving even a relationship the chance to actually get better or to work through the problems of that relationship. And that's a problem. Society now has a lack of what's called staying power. People no longer stay long enough to allow themselves to develop solutions to what at the moment is a problem. Now, I'm not saying if you're in a situation where there's violence and there's abuse, stay and try to fix it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about situations that have very minor misunderstandings, very minor scenarios of not getting along. Do you even try to look for a solution to fix that? Do you even value the other person that made a commitment to you? That's another thing. People don't value people. People don't value people anymore. So you have individuals going into a relationship with someone, but they see that person as another thing, another check mark in the box of their life. They fail to notice that person is an entire world that you're going to bring into yours, and you're combining your worlds together to make a family. Do you value the family? Do you have value for that? And living in a country that is predominantly, corporate based, hours of the job or these hours, and you have to be career focused and you have to be successful and chase your dream. Basically, you are sacrificing all the other things that deep down in the long run, as you age, those are the things that will make you happy. Family, your kids being great kids, being able to have partnership with someone, great friends, friends that are like family, good relationships with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings, peaceful relationships with your relatives, peaceful relationships with people from your past that have wronged you. Those are the things that are valuable to you, not your career standing, not even how much money you have in the bank, not even that. You shouldn't be chasing the dollar sign. It's not about chasing Lamborghinis. Because then when you sit in it alone, you're going to realize you're sitting in it alone. So what's the point of the Lamborghini? You might be able to enjoy it by yourself for a little while, but eventually all you hear is the echo of your own laughter. Single parenthood has definitely shown me the value of other people, the value of my child in my life, the value of certain friends, the value people that reach out to me, I I I value them very much. I don't care how someone might value me. I don't care how someone might treat me. I don't think you should be matching energy. That's another thing. You should be matching energy. Stay at an energy vibration that is high, that makes you feel happy in your life. Don't change it for anybody, for anything. You know? Be kind and loving to who you want to be kind and loving to. Now, of course, sometimes you have to let some anger out, but you use it at the right moments. Even Jesus let anger out. You can't always be a beautiful, loving, fairy butterfly to everybody. Sometimes you got to let your anger out to discipline or show somebody else where their place is and what they're doing and who they're being to other people, But for the most part, don't match your energy to lower vibrating things. When it comes to single parent life and you hear people kind of knock down or outcast the idea of being a single parent, don't match that energy. Don't allow this world to shift how you think about your scenario as a single parent to be a negative scenario, because you're going to end up taking it out on your kid. Whether we like to admit it or not, how the world sees us, if we allow it to be absorbed by us, it will affect how we see ourselves. And then we will pass that on or project that on to those around us and those that we love the most, or those that are connected to that observation. In single parent situation, it will be your kid. Been there, done that. I've had to catch myself several times to not let myself take something out on my kid because it's based off of how the world sees me, and it affected my heart. I remind myself that to my kid, I am the world to that kid. I am their universe. I am a reflection of what the world should be like, or what world they want to have should be like. And I know we could say the world's not kind, there's bullying, there's this. Yes, but because of that, that's why I want to have a kid that is resilient enough already when they go out into the world, that if I'm not around, I know that they are emotionally going to be able to handle it. Being a single parent is not negative. I have some tips about it, about single parenting. When it comes to parenting, and I don't think I would have learned this if I was in a husband and wife setup. If I stayed married, I don't think I would know this. I was not raised with this, even with my parents. But single parent has taught me, to be more patient, to be more calm, also to exit scenarios and moments where where I get angry. It took a couple of years for me to get it. It took about, I would say, since 2016, 6 years for me to finally get it. When I reached the point where I realized my own child is making me angry, they've broken a rule or they've spoken to me in a specific way that's hurtful, I exit the situation. I don't stay in it and try to discipline them at that moment. Don't discipline your kid when you're at your angriest. You exit the situation. Having some silence is very valuable, because then you're going to come back. You're going to discipline your kid with more calmness, more patience, and you're also going to be able to give them the message of why that behavior changing is more beneficial and better for them. They're going to listen to you. That's the other thing. They do listen to you. We like to think that teenagers never listen. They never do what we want, this and that, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. Single parenting has shown me that my teen, now she's 15, right? I have a 15-year-old. It took from the time she was like 5 until, I think it was 12 when this started happening, 12 or 13, where yes, she does lash out and sometimes speaks to me in a way that is rude, right? Also, going through puberty is not easy. I have learned to be patient and allow myself to hear all of that, almost like you're taking punches to your face, and not respond back. I call it the headphone method, where basically I have headphones on. I don't process anything she's saying. Eventually, within an hour, maybe even less than that, she comes to me and apologizes and explains to me why she lashed out that way and is able to pinpoint what the reason is for it, you know? Initially, when I started this kind of parenting style with her when she was like 5, I obviously walked her through the steps of how to identify what's making you angry so that you don't always take it out on me, mom, you know? And now she's at the point where she's able to talk it through a few minutes to an hour later and pinpoint what's upsetting her for real. And we're able to fix it. I'm able to help her fix it. That's the other thing. And then on top of that, my kid doesn't hate me. And on top of that, when I suggest A, B, or C to her, now she listens and now she wants to actually put it into action. I wouldn't have gotten that reaction if at the moment of her talking to me that way, I just lash out based on the anger I'm feeling at that moment and just point a finger at her. The entire opportunity for her to better herself as a human being would not exist. And that's where a lot of parents miss the mark. They miss the mark with that. We're spending so much time pointing out, what's a better parenting scenario. On paper, a scenario where there's a mom and dad seems to be great, but I've seen scenarios where there's a mom and dad and the kid sneaks out of the house, or the kid wants to run away from home, or the kid, is depressed and the parents don't even know it. Okay? And that's very heartbreaking. I've mentored kids that have told me scenarios that go on at home, and they're doing things the parents have no idea. I mean, eventually the parents figured it out or found out, because they just had to. But to hear that and then to see me as a single parent, how society looks at that is like, well, that's not a great setup. There's no dad in the house or there's no other parent in the house. Yeah, okay, yeah, but my kid doesn't sneak out of the house. My kid doesn't do any of the things I've heard other kids do, or any of the things I've heard other kids that I've mentored actually even tell me that they think about. Like, that's not my kid, So society what society deems on paper to be great is not the reality. That's the other thing. And on my channel, I stress a lot about spiritual warfare on a couple of episodes that I've done already. I even did one on spiritual warfare and suicide. That's another thing. The negativity of this world tries to infiltrate your brain to the point where you develop so much shame and guilt, you just want to end your life. And sometimes you want to end your life not even because of the shame or guilt, but because you thought about it in the first place. So there's like a double-edged sword scenario with that. And that's dangerous. And our kids are growing up in this kind of cultural pattern. And if parents are unaware because they're constantly fighting and bickering with each other and neither of them want to be in the house and neither of them are noticing the kids because they're too busy dealing with relationship shit that they should have already figured it out after all this time of being together. Because that's the other thing. They're married, they're having constant relationship insecurity and jealousy crap, and they're not even noticing their kid is growing up. Their kid is needing them to be examples of love. And what are they doing? They're being examples of hatred. And instead of being together with a mentality of it's us against whatever it is trying to get us upset, they're growing up with a household with a mentality of it's us against each other. It's me against you. It's whoever is better. It's a competition between man and woman in the house, or husband and wife, or two people, whatever, And then that same society is coming and saying, well, dating a single parent is a bad investment. I'm sorry, a single parent household might be way more peaceful than any other household you've ever been in or you've ever experienced. Now, this is unique to every situation. This is why getting to know the person and their scenario is very important. Process reveals potential. If you don't go through the process, you don't know the potential of that person in your life. You can't just, knowing an answer to a question, immediately tell yourself, no, this is not a good thing. Heck, I mean, when I was 8 years old, I hated broccoli. But right now, I love broccoli. I love broccoli as a vegetable. I love broccoli steamed. I love broccoli on a vegetable platter. I love broccoli and carrots. I used to hate carrots when I was little. I did not like them. I grew up on a farm, but carrots were not my thing. Now I love carrots, baby carrots, chopped carrots, all kinds of carrots. I sometimes dip them in peanut butter. I sometimes have carrots and I just dip them in ranch sauce or ranch dressing as a snack. I love carrots. Now, if I went based on the mentality of myself when I was 8, I would never touch carrots again. And that's what people do. Grown-ass people do that with other individuals based on answers to questions on date 1 or on a phone conversation or just texting. That's another thing, just texting. Which, by the way, text communication, any kind of communication that is solely virtual, that's not a relationship. That's not dating, and that's not a connection. That's simply just a sharing of contact and just preview information, and that's it. Like, if you're talking about using it as a way to find someone to be with, that's not, if you're not meeting in person, if you're not experiencing space and time with that person, that situation is, that connection is non-existent in your life, because you're not really being authentic. Like, even if you are being truthful while you're texting, that's not authenticity. Authenticity means you're not afraid to show your face, because you're the same person that you are virtually is the same person you are personally, is the same person you are everywhere you go. It doesn't shift because of where you are. And in texting, you're not being authentic, because you could be in a setting with a group of people. Let's say that they are all doing drugs, and you're texting that you hate drugs, you would never do drugs, this and that. But if that individual is reading your text, was in that room with you at that time, that's not the impression you'll be giving them. It's an inauthentic way of communicating. It allows us to connect, yes, to create an initial exchange, but it's not a relationship. It's not a relationship until you are sharing physical space and time together and growing from there, where you're sharing physical space and time regularly with each other. Then it becomes a relationship, because then you start to share other things because you are physically in each other's presence. But unless that is taking place, I'm sorry, this idea of like texting and video chatting is already, no. It's great for when you are younger and if you are a teen in today's world, but we're talking about adult people. We're talking about adult people that they prize the idea of authenticity. Being authentic is so valuable. And that's another thing that a single parent brings to the table is authenticity. They don't have time or space to be hiding their true self anymore. They don't have the energy to be hiding. They don't have the energy to be lying either, because they use so much of their energy for parenting. Not just parenting as one parent. When you're a single parent, I think another thing society doesn't understand, unless you've experienced it or you know someone who has, when you're a single parent, you are parenting for two people. You are mom and dad. Even if the dad is present at some point in time or in some way, if the kid is 90% of the time or more with you, you are the two parents at the same time. And that is very strenuous. That is very overwhelming, energetically wise. So there's no energy available for me to be making up and conjuring up stories about myself and who I am and who I'm not and what I do. There's also not any energy left for me to be insecure and jealous. That's another thing that a single parent, a single mom brings to the table, an amazing security and an amazing confidence. They don't got time for jealousy. They don't got time for insecurity. You know why? Because they're either working or single parenting. And then if they're finally open to a relationship, they're devoting some time for a relationship, but because they treasure the fact that they are even open to it, and they're just that feeling of gratitude. That's another thing that single parenting brings to you, a sense of gratitude in life that's just different from people that are just single and with no kids. There's a sense of gratitude in life when you have a kid, especially when you're a single parent, because the feedback, the reciprocity you get from your kid, from your kid, right? Just makes you feel good about life. Because when you do good and right by your child through the time that they're growing up, they let you know that. Not just in cute little cards and little gestures that they do, but the moments they open up to you and they tell you how, that one time that decided to stay home from work because they were sick, and instead of leaving them with a babysitter or leaving them with someone else, you wanted to stay home with them and make sure they were okay. Or how valuable it was that when they were sick, that you had them sleep in your bed, and you were up most of the night because they were with the flu and they threw up and whatever, and you were there for them. How valuable that was to them. Or the moment where they had an accident or something happened and you carried them, you physically carried them to the emergency room or to wherever they needed to be so that you can assist them and check up on them. Your kid will let you know how that, to them, it's like, you're my superhero. And that just gives you a sense of gratitude in life. So when it comes to having a relationship with a person, and comment if you feel this, because this is what I feel as a single mom. I just recently opened up to dating. I've been single now for like a good 7 years. Okay. And yes, it's by choice. It's been completely by choice. Even when you attract people that are at the level that they want a relationship with me, I didn't want a relationship. I wanted to focus on getting my child to be secure mentally to the point they are today, so that if I go dating or I go to meeting people for a relationship, I know that the steps and the stages she has gone through, that I've needed to input what she needs for her character to be solid, I've already done that, and now I can actually consider dating. Let me try it out, um during the 7 years, I have met people that were at levels with me that we were compatible. I've attracted some people that tried to pretend, to be something they were not, to have me interested, but I quickly realized the truth and I just didn't get involved. And that's okay, because also when you are healing, that's another thing I was going through in 7 years. I was emotionally and spiritually going through a healing stage, right? So because of that, and making sure I was also inputting what my child needed in order to be a solid teenager in high school, because high school years are years where they make crazy decisions and they're around crazy situations. I can't control the situations around my child 100%. I can't. You can't control the world around your kid. The world is the world. But you can input into your child what you can input into them, to be confident enough to know they could be in any situation, but I trust what I input into my child, and they know I trust them, and that trust to them is very valuable. They're gonna make the right choice, and that's what I've seen happen. So finally, when I started to notice that my child was at a point where she was expressing and showing to me that she does make choices based on keeping a solid trust link with me, I then said, okay, I'm ready for dating. I'm ready for dating, because now if I'm not focused on that so much, I could focus a little bit on a relationship, And the 7 years of healing emotionally and spiritually, that's when I started doing coaching. People found me. People actually sought me out. People I knew from the past, people that I was in contact with for other reasons, that eventually hired me as their personal therapist. Okay. I was very flattered. I was very honored. Now, I'm saying all this so that I can just explain what, gratitude means for me. Well, now when I'm finally open up to dating, whether it's to have a relationship or just, to have someone that I enjoy time with, I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for it. Not in a way of like, I'll do anything to have a person, but in a way of like, I'm grateful for the fact that the moment is even there. The person is even, there with me. We're experiencing it. The gratitude of just being able to live that is very beautiful for me. And I think that people that are just single and free and with no kids, they don't necessarily treasure that as much. They don't have that same lens of gratitude. So it's very easy to see on their phone, for instance, they have, 100 options when it comes to dating, because there's like, how many dating apps? Like 100 dating apps. So they can go on all the dating apps and have different profiles. They can even have profiles with different names, like more than one profile. you know? But here's another thing that the world doesn't necessarily tell you or warn you about. People present themselves not always with the truth. And just because it's a profile on a dating site doesn't mean that they are really free to date either. You know, they could be lying about their setup. Usually, individuals that think that a single parent is a bad investment are individuals that are bad investments themselves. You're a bad investment. I wouldn't want someone thinking that a single parent is a bad investment around my kid. Why? Because you're basically saying another human being is a bad investment based on the fact that they've had to make a choice to salvage their scenario so that they could be a mentally and emotionally stable person to put that into their child. You're saying that's a bad investment. So you're saying if you have a business that is going under and you're about to become bankrupt and you do a move to salvage your business and you actually salvage your business to a place where it's now selling better than ever before or making more profit than ever before, but you're a bad investment because you know that 1 year that you almost got bankrupt, that you're a bad investment. It doesn't make sense. We got to stop categorizing things with a lens of negativity and actually believing it. You know, the next time that you are sitting around and if you're a single parent and you're starting to feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, which it is, you know, people that are single and that are with no kids and unmarried are complaining economically about what they can and cannot afford. Okay. Well, if you know a single parent that can afford a good life on their own and that's what you see, how are you thinking that's a bad investment? What's wrong with you? No, it's not. A bad investment is anyone who thinks another individual is a bad investment, whether they're talking about a single parent or not. Look to yourself before you look to another. Look to yourself. We project to others what we have within ourselves. You know, a man that is secure and stable and generous and compassionate and loving, he's not going to have one seed of a thought of that person's a bad investment in his mind. Because you can't be a compassionate human being and think someone else is a bad investment. That's another key. So for my women out there that are single mothers, stop allowing the statement of, you know, don't date a single mom, she's a bad investment. Stop allowing that to like get to you. And be grateful that you're listening to that from that particular person or that you're listening to that from that group of people. Why? Because that group of people is basically telling you they're all bad investments if they're all agreeing with that. Don't seek that kind of a person. Don't allow yourself to seek that kind of a person. When you go dating, that's another thing that happens too. And I've had clients who told me this, life coaching clients have told me this. They're single parents, they go on several dates, but they never tell the other person that they have a kid because they're afraid to say it, right? They don't know how the other person's going to take it. They want to get to know the other person as themselves, not as themselves, oh, and I'm a mom or a dad. You know, they want to wait out on that. I often advise them not to do that. Like, be straight up honest from the beginning. Like, why? Because it all has to do with you being authentic with yourself. Authenticity is about how you present yourself to the world based on how you are with yourself. You know, it's not about living your truth. It's about if you are a particular person in your life, then that particular person needs to be the same no matter what the circumstances where you're going. Okay? So if you're a parent and you're on a date, don't hide the fact you have kids, because then you're basically setting the other person up. You're not being honest with them. So you are attracting the idea, or you're attracting the okayness of the other individual also hiding things from you. Don't do that. Be honest. So I've had people who have, you know, maybe on the first date they didn't share it. On the second date they do. And that individual just says, that's it. I don't want to continue this. Like, you're a really great person. I love our laughs. I love the conversation. I love our vibe. Our mindsets are matching, but I'm sorry. I don't want to date someone that has kids. People will actually say that. Be grateful for that. Be grateful they tell you they don't want to date someone who has kids. Don't be feeling like, oh my God, you know, it's the end of the world. There's no people out there for me. maybe you need to be in solitude, boo-boo. Maybe you need to be in solitude for a little bit. Let's stop also having a negative mindset about being in solitude. Why aren't people developing themselves emotionally, spiritually, mentally? That takes time. And the time I'm talking about is not a week. It's not a couple of months. You know, it's years. It takes a couple of years. And I definitely disagree. Another thing that I disagree with when it comes to single parenting, they talk about statistics from this particular study showed that if you have been divorced for more than 4 years and have not married again, you are less likely to ever marry again. I think that's really funny because the last time I checked, and the amount of people through my traveling experiences that I have met that have such a wide variety of love stories, that's not 100% accurate. Those statistics are not right either. Because there's so many people who don't necessarily even marry in this particular country. So when you look up studies or you listen to studies on TV or you hear about them or you read them on social media, be mindful of this. Where are they getting their information from? Where is this record coming from? This is not the record of the whole world. There's people who go and get married, meet someone, go and get married in a different country. Their wedding is in a different country. It was never registered in the States. According to the States, that person's still divorced. Unless they register their marriage in this country. So that statistic is not accurate is what I'm trying to say. I actually found out that it's not accurate. You know, it actually, another study from another country shows that most being 60% of individuals that get divorced, when they do remarry, they remarry with a person for life. And a lot of times they remarry a partner that they end up having economically a higher standing together, like a better life together. Not a better like they all become millionaires, but a better wherever they were at on their own or married or wherever they were at with whoever they were married before. The divorced individuals, 70%, when they remarry, it's for life, it's into old age, but also their status of life is leveled up, not down. Leveled up in terms of together as a new partnership with a new person. Because now they know what they want. They're authentic. They say on the table what they want in the relationship. There's nothing wrong with you admitting that these are the things you need in order to have the relationship that makes you happy. That's another thing that single parent mindset of being negative also does to people. It actually puts women in a perspective of, well, then I better not ask for too much because I should just be grateful for whatever I get. No, screw that. I think that's the reason why I've been a single person, a single mom for so long. Even though I've had like several offers to like change my life, is because as I meet women who are in this scenario, it's almost like I need to stick up for this. Like, ask for what you want. Ask for what you want that makes you happy. It's okay because you want to be with a person who's going to want to fulfill that because they care about you. Now, asking what you want that makes you happy, it shouldn't be name brand stuff. And I'm not talking about expensive, luxurious things either. Because you should be able to provide some of that for yourself. You know? Like, if someone comes into my life right now, let me just paint this picture. I'm going to use myself because I don't got it. Then no one else is compromised. I don't have to say somebody else's name. From my past experience of coaching and then get in trouble. So I'll use myself. But there are things I can provide for myself right now currently and that through the years I have been able to, have access to on my own that I don't necessarily have this idea of like, I want a man to come into my life to give me a Mercedes or to buy me a house. Like, no, because I've done that for myself, So what I mean when I say ask for what you want in a relationship to make you happy, what does that mean? What does quality time mean for you? What does generosity mean for you? How important is it to get gifts and to give gifts? You know, what do you consider valuable in the other person's character that you would like to see in them? Or what is it that is valuable to you when it comes to like family time or experiences that you would love to have in a relationship because that would just make you happy? It's okay to share that. It's okay to say that to the other person, because if the other person is the one for you, is right for you, or wants to be, they're going to want to fulfill that naturally. Especially if we're talking about a woman, presenting that to a man. Men want to provide and protect, not to every single person, but when it's the woman that, you know, sparks that level of interest, they want to provide and protect. But you have to allow for the space and yourself to be available for them to do that. That means don't try to be the one controlling so much. Because the other thing that single parenting does to you is it puts you in a place where you always have to feel like, you have everything covered, because everything relies on you. It's okay, even in that scenario as a single parent, before even entering the world of dating, just just become a little bit more laid back. Become a little bit more laid back, especially as a single mom. Why? Because you need to learn how to let go of the control. Just to let go of it. For no other reason than to just be okay with not having the control of it. Like, you can't control time, you can't control people's activity time, you can't control outcomes, you can't control when this is done, when that gets happened. You just can't. Let go. Let go of your expectation of outcome. So that when you are open to dating, letting go of control is just natural to you. It's easy for you. You don't have a problem with having the space for someone else to control, because that's what men want to do. Male energy likes to provide and protect, and for them to provide and protect, they have to feel like they can control something around those factors so that they're activated to provide and protect. So single parenting is a challenge, because you're basically a lot of times parenting for two people, but that doesn't mean that the individual's a bad investment. So everything I talked about was basically proving why single parents are great investments. We're great investments. Another scenario that pops up also that I've heard on some podcasts talking about this, it was the when you get in a relationship, usually men want beauty, they want youth because they want to have kids, they want to grow a legacy with you. Okay, but we got to keep in mind, you're talking at a general level. When you hear these relationship advisors, or you hear these relationship coaches, or these podcasts, or whatever you watch that gives you relationship information, this is a general level. You got to take each experience and each relationship at a personal level. What does that mean? It's with that person. Not every man in his 40s wants to have kids. And not every man even in their 30s wants to have kids. Not every woman wants to have more kids. Not every woman in their 20s wants to have kids. Not every woman in their 30s, early 30s still wants to have kids. And not every woman in her 30s or 40s, that's it, she can never have kids again. You have to look at the individual scenario. You have to go through the process to allow potential to be revealed. You got to acquire enough information on the individual to know, the analysis you're making. You can't just make your analysis based on a set of answers from a few questions that put the person in a category of dateable or non-dateable. You can't do that. Because when you do that, you are basically, like I said in the beginning of this episode, you are basically saying that 9 million women are out of the market for you. And the 9 million women that are single mothers are not all in their late 30s and 40s and 50s. A lot of them are in their mid to late 20s. Some in their early 20s. So you're also talking about women that are younger. You can't do that. Why? Because you don't know their individual circumstance. A single mother may be financially better off than you think. Or sometimes they are in a worse situation. That doesn't mean that they're non-dateable. The same for single dads. You know, we put so much value on things and money in this world that we've categorized people into boxes as if they're things. People are not things. People are emotions. People are thoughts. People are energy. They're spirit. They have essence. They have wonderful characteristics in their character. They have things that they're involved in that you find out about that just surprise you, impress you. How are you going to know that if you're putting people into categories as if they're things going into a box? You know, and even if you do that, you'll find yourself a few months to maybe a year or years later going through those things only to realize what you put in that particular box you regret, because that was the best option. That was the best choice. That was the best out of everything. And you overlooked it because of your categorization. You know, it's time that you awaken your mind. You know, people talk about also getting out of the matrix. Well, getting out of the matrix involves you also not categorizing people as dateable or non-dateable based on their living circumstances in scenarios of, you know, are they a single parent or not? Now, if they're in a circumstance where they're divorced but they're still living with their ex, I'm sorry. As a life coach, you need to have a white, clean paper in your life to offer another person so that both of you can write a story together. And the other person should also be at that white, clean paper. What does that mean? You shouldn't have connectivity with your exes where they're still providing history events in your life currently and want a new person also come in. That's not okay. That's not healthy. Why? Because the other person is not going to want to work in that equation. You're going to basically ruin your new connection. Your new connection is going to be affected by the presence of things from your past. If your past is still living with you. Everyone has a past, but I'm talking about the individual. So are there moments where a person could be like non-dateable? Not necessarily. I don't think it's non-dateable. I just think, well, it's not a moment for you to have a relationship. It's not a moment for you to be dating anyway. You know, I've told that to clients sometimes. If you can't do these specific things when you go dating, then you shouldn't be dating. It's not that the other person's non-dateable. It's you. You shouldn't be dating. And it's not because you're non-dateable. It's because it's not your moment to be dating. You're not ready to go and play the game. That's like saying, you know, years ago, I used to think of people who work out as crazy. People who live like a healthy lifestyle and are constantly in the gym. I was like, oh my God, like I'll never be that kind of a person, right? And now, let me fix the mic. And now I go to the gym like 3-4 times a week. And sometimes I do CrossFit. And I used to think that the people who do CrossFit, they're nuts. Why are they preparing for the apocalypse in form of an exercise? Like, is an apocalypse approaching anytime soon? So why are they grabbing a truck tire and moving it across a warehouse to the outside dirt to then move it back? That's apocalyptic kind of situation right there. Why are they doing this? Now I'm an individual who is involved in that, right? So we can't necessarily look and say, I couldn't look at myself and say, oh, I'm a non-exercising person. I'm a non-fit person. That's not fair, because the moment I started actually becoming active in that environment and tried it out and dedicated myself to it and committed myself to it, I realized, you know what? I am a fitness freak. Like I am a fitness fanatic now. But I don't impose it on other people. I don't believe imposing anything on anyone I care about or in anyone. I don't think that that's right. You shouldn't. You know, you can inspire others. You can be an example for others, a role model, but you don't impose, you don't force. You also don't try to talk your point as if that's the best option. Everyone should be doing it. No, you know, and it's a thin line, because when you have a podcast or when you present your content this way, it seems like you're presenting your word and it's the best word. Everybody should listen. No, not necessarily. I'm presenting a perspective. You know, I'm presenting a perspective, and a perspective that through experience I've seen actually works for me. My house is peaceful. My life is the best it's ever been. And my kid is the most amazing human being. I can proudly say I'm proud of myself. You know, I'm really proud of myself because all of those years in solitude that at sometimes had me feeling like I'm so alone, right? Now I look at that, I'm like, I am glad I made that choice though. I am very grateful I made that choice. So now I'm even more grateful when the moments of meeting someone that I could possibly date and continue dating happen. I'm grateful for that. And that person that's in that moment with me feels that. And they feel a feeling that's different that you don't get. You know why? Because people who don't know what it's like to lose and have nothing or be lonely or be in solitude, people who haven't experienced that, they don't have that sense of gratitude for when that space is occupied with another individual spending time with them. They take that individual for granted because tomorrow they're going to go out with a different one. Next weekend, it's a different person. Tomorrow, it could be a different person also. When they go home at night after this date, they're going to already be talking to somebody else on the phone. They're not going to be grateful for you, and you're going to feel it in your soul, you know? So a single parent is a very good investment. Now, if it's an option you don't want for yourself, for whatever those reasons are, don't point the finger and say that that single parent is a bad investment. Point the finger at yourself. It's not something that I want because I don't like it for myself. We have to take accountability for what we like and what we don't like instead of pointing it at everything else around us and making it seem like we're perfect. You're not perfect. No one is. It's okay to say that I don't want to date someone that's a single parent. That's fine. But put it on yourself. Don't put it on the other individuals. Because the message you're giving and you're propagating is a message that those individuals in those settings are bad investments. And that's a horrible thing to say. You know, actually, one guy that actually said this, he actually was raised by a single mother. And he was saying this. So it's no wonder his mother remained a single mother. He probably was a really hard, difficult kid to raise with that mentality. You know, another person coming into the house wouldn't want to handle that. And I don't blame them. But it doesn't mean that his mother is non-dateable or a bad investment. The individual coming in didn't want that for themselves. You know, it's like me. Like, for instance, for me, owning my own business is not for me. Even though I do life coaching, I don't advertise it. I don't. I have a link for it on Instagram, but I don't advertise for it. I don't publicize it anywhere. It's not something that I ever turned into. You know, having an office and having a logo and having a brand and none of that. I just allowed people to find me, right? Because I know that owning a business from experience of already having it is not for me. It doesn't make me happy. I was raised too traditionally. You know, as a woman, my role, and I've accepted that and I love that about myself, is I like to be a woman. I like to be feminine. I'm a person designed to be like a housewife. I don't need to be married to be a housewife. I was raised that way. I was groomed to be that. So now I realize having a business is not for me. Would I have one with a partner who wants to have one also? Yes, because I believe the man should be the leader and I should submit to the man. I should be submissive. I was raised traditionally. That doesn't mean that I'm backwards. It was just the way that I was raised. I was raised in a country. I was raised in Portugal mostly, and especially my core years was in Portugal. So my mindset and my personality, my character is very much rounded that way. You know, I'm not perfect. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that I realize a business is not for me. Having my own business, that idea of my own business is not for me. So that would be like me saying that a man who owns his own business is a bad investment because he's never around. How could I say that? I'm basically blaming a person for having their own thing being bad as a bad situation. What I should say is, man, I don't want to date someone who has their own business because I don't feel like I can handle their lack of time and attention. It's not the kind of relationship I would want to have. I put the accountability on my tastes, on my preferences. I don't go and say that a man with his own business is a bad investment. We need to stop doing that, because when you're pointing the finger, see, this is why life coaching is so helpful, because we teach you mental methods to reroute your thinking. You don't point the finger at another, point it at yourself. Why do you, watching, disagree with me right now? Why do you disagree that a single parent is a bad investment? Is not a bad investment. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied. Like, I'm saying a single parent is a good investment for a relationship. Why do you disagree with me? Point the finger at yourself. What is it in that scenario that you don't like? That's the reason why that's not for you. It's not that the other person is a bad investment. Do you see? When we start to do that, putting accountability on ourselves, we actually start to also grow something I'm going to talk about in a future episode, our confidence. Because we become more confident with being able to also assert what we don't like and what we do like. You know, being able to be accountable for things is important. It's not just a mental, psychological tactic to have you, give this, go through therapy. It's an actual mental pattern that starts to boost confidence within you, because then you can assert what you like and what you don't like. But when you cannot take accountability and say, I don't think a single parent is for me because I don't want to be involved or have a relationship with another child because I am not ready for that. I take accountability. It's me who feels that way and thinks that way about myself. Not that I look at a person and say, you're a bad investment for a relationship because you have a kid. What? Who are you to point the finger like that? Who are you to say that? So I was very taken aback recently when I was watching a couple of different podcasts from different creators, and they were talking about, what men look for in a relationship, and the whole idea or the phrase, a single mother is a bad investment because she has kids. You don't want to date a single mother, especially if you're a high value man. If you're a high value man, okay, if you're a really high value man, and I know a couple of them, you're not even going to have an ounce of that kind of a thought, because a high value man has integrity, has generosity, has compassion, and is merciful as part of his character. That's what makes a high value man a high value man. If you don't have those, I don't care where you're sitting at a company level. I don't care what business you own. I don't care what NFL team you played for, or NBA or whatever. You're not a high value man then. You are just a man who has some money and some history to how he got it. That's it. A high value person is determined by their character. It is not determined by their financial standing. And that's what we got to change in our mental pattern. Because society and culture will always have you believing that a high value man is directly linked to how much money and where he sits in the corporate ladder. And even what his looks are like. Okay? And that a high value woman, same thing. What does she have in terms of looks? What does she have in terms of youth? What does she have in terms of even money by herself? Okay, nothing about character when it comes to high value. High value has to do with character. High value has to do with your ability to just open hand, like to give and to receive. That doesn't mean that I believe a person should just live with nothing, but it just means that you're not petty. To be high value, you can't be petty. Pointing fingers at other people and saying, this is good, you're not good, you're good, that's petty. That's not high value. High value does not involve pettiness. High value involves integrity and gratitude and compassion, generosity. All of those things have nothing to do with being petty. All of those things have everything to do with appreciating the simple and what matters. That's what's high value. And you will find that a high value person is also happier in life. And maybe that's why we have a lot more single mothers nowadays. Maybe that's why a lot of more women, after they divorce or get out of a relationship and become, they still have the kids, they don't want to remarry again. They don't even develop commitments afterwards that are long-standing, simply because they figure out that by themselves, they rather be the sole example for their kid than to bring in someone that doesn't have the character traits they want to see in their child. I really think that that's why we have more women that are single moms nowadays. Has nothing to do with the fact that they can't find somebody. You can find someone. You can definitely find someone. That's not impossible. And especially if you are still, you've got your looks, you don't even look your age. On top of that, you're physically healthy, you're spiritually healthy. You attract people on the regular, okay? But here's the thing. A single mom or single parent, when they're talking to an individual that is a contender for a relationship for them, they are in the back of their mind thinking, are these character traits I want around my kid? Are these character traits I want to see in my kid? And if the answer is no, then that person's lost the game. So I think people that say that single parents are a bad investment, goes back to them again. Point the finger at yourself then. Maybe you're the bad investment. Are there things you need to work around with? Or just admit, just take accountability that you don't like that for yourself. That's okay. Let's stop categorizing individuals as bad or good investments because they're raising a family by themselves. That's just a cop-out. And that to me just breaks my heart because I genuinely feel in the group of men that consider that and listen to something like that and actually consider it to be, yeah, that's a good one. I really do believe that. Yeah. In a group of men that think that way is a man who is missing out on an amazing companion for the rest of his life because of the groupthink mentality. Exit the groupthink mentality. Assess each individual for their person, for their character, for their situation. Make your own analysis based on your experience with them, not based on what the group is telling you or sharing with you. And I promise you, you're not going to regret it. Process reveals potential. You got to be able to be in the process in order to reveal the potential at hand. You're not going to know the potential by listening to groupthink ideas like that and accept them as your truths and be a high value person who categorizes others based on what you've heard others say and then call yourself authentic and unique. To be authentic and unique means you have to go out and basically do it on your own. Face it on your own. Get the answers on your own. Figure it out on your own. Be resilient. And resilience requires you going through struggles and coping with them on your own and coming out with the wisdom from what happened. And then being resilient because if it happens again, it's not going to knock you down. We got to take the shame away from that. So I wanted to do this episode basically just to talk about all of those issues and all of what I mentioned for all my single parents out there. I love you so much. I'm really proud of you. And the next time you have a thought pattern in your mind that starts to make you feel like you can't handle it, remember, you represent the world to another human being. You are their universe. And that's a beautiful thing. That is a blessing. That is not a curse. That is not a life sentence of miserable loneliness. Solitude is a precious thing. Solitude enables your spirit to develop. It enables your emotions to develop. And it also enables you to become a resilient human being. So that when the moment and time, which it will happen, arises for you to feel like you want to date again, you want to have a relationship again, you're going to be strong enough to assert what is okay and not okay with you, what you like and don't like, to the point that all the bullshit that you'd be dealing with because you think is just what you have to deal with, you're not going to deal with it because it's not even going to attach itself to you because you are vibrating at a much higher level. Why? Because you're a single parent. You're two people in one. You represent the world to your little human beings, and they love you so much for it. And the love and trust and relationship you have with them is worth so much more than any relationship you can have with anybody else. And if anybody else is going to be in the picture of your life and they're going to love you, trust and believe they're going to love your kid because your kid is a piece of you. So no, single parent's not a bad investment. The single parent is the key to knowing that whatever future you might have with that person, you already see it. You already see it in front of you because look at what that person is living in right now. Okay? Know their situation now, not based on answers from questions, but based on what you see, based on what you feel, based on what you start to realize when you are a part of their life for a little bit. Allow yourself to experience the process so that life can reveal the potential something has or that something does not have. But don't just cut people off based on instantaneous calculations and groupthink mentality that just have you snap your fingers and say it's not for me. Recognize that sometimes, in order for you to have something amazing, it requires you to move in ways that are amazing, not in ways that are finger pointing and judgmental. Okay? I love you. Thank you so much for staying all this time. I hope you've enjoyed everything I've said. If you disagree, whatever you feel, please comment or DM me. I have a lot of people from the videos here on my podcast. They DM me on Instagram, and I appreciate it. So you can reach me. I'm on Instagram, LoveTribe143 on Instagram. And if you check the Show More section, there's some more information how to get in touch with me or support my movement. Don't forget to like, if possible, share, and of course subscribe so you get notifications when I post new content. Subscribe and be part of my tribe. I love you so much for staying. I look forward to another sit down with you soon. Bye.